And we're live. Look at that. That's how easy it is to go live on the internet.
Yeah, I'm gonna
2018.
retweet this now. You can go live from really anything with an internet connection these days. It's pretty wild.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm surprised more shows don't do video.
I think it's
Really?
because it is the extra. It's the extra effort. It's a lot of extra effort, and
Yeah.
Like for my stuff, I still keep it pretty old school for especially for the Fitcast, because some people just don't want to have to get ready to look.
Yeah, that's true. If you have a lot of
you know what I mean?
guests, yeah.
Right.
If
If you just don't care what you look like, you're good.
Yeah, if
Okay,
you don't
but
care
this
what you
is-
look like.
I haven't shaved in like 3 weeks.
Maybe outside of, not to stereotype on video game podcasts, but when it's like trying to present a more professional atmosphere on your show.
I could wear a suit and tie next week, although it'll only be from the waist up.
Yeah, of course.
That's all you need.
Yeah, that's all you need. We ready to do this thing?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm just sending this out to the back of my play.
Okay.
Folks, there we go. Okay, now we're good.
The bimps, you're sending it out to the bimps?
The bimps.
Yeah, do you guys like? I wore my retro gaming shirt today, my pro wrestling shirt.
Pro res. Yeah.
Oh, I love this shirt. Thank you, Etsy.
Etsy. All right.
Yeah, sure they paid.
I'm sure it's licensed.
Yeah, I'm sure they
officially.
paid for the license.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm
too.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No problem whatsoever there.
That's all right. It's not my fault.
Hello and welcome to episode 627 of the Player One podcast for Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. I'm your host, Chris Johnston. With me, as always, from Canada, Mr. Greg Seward.
Yo.
How's it going?
Just checking Instagram.
Why?
I
We're
don't know.
recording a podcast here.
I figured now was the time to start.
Get off your phone. It's not time for that. But
It's going great.
yeah.
Sure.
Well, that's good. That's good. Not with us this week, Mr. Phil Theobald.
That's why it's going great.
Yeah, in his stead, we've got from back in my play and the Fitcast, Mr. Kevin Larrabee.
Gentlemen, it's great to be back. How is
My bo-
everyone doing tonight?
My before picture.
Yeah, right. No, let's see. I think I've been talking about this. I think I'm just going to grow my hair back out again. I think usually I do that around the
Oh,
winter
wow.
times.
Isn't it nice to have choices?
Yeah, it is.
I would say yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, anyways, it's great to come and hang out and talk about video games with you guys because
Yeah.
it's a fun time. Love it.
Video games are awesome.
They're
just
usually pretty good.
say that at the top of the show.
Yeah.
Video games are great. It's never been a better time to be a gamer.
You know what? I think if you are on the internet complaining about video games, you have to get some more perspective in life. Just
I agree.
play
Now
good
let's
video
talk
games.
about Red
Don't
Dead.
play. Okay, I will preemptively say I haven't heard your guys' Red Dead thoughts or
Oh,
discussion
this will be
yet,
this will be
so-
entertaining then. We'll have
Oh,
Kevin go
great.
first later, and he'll
Uh,
tell us what he thinks about Red Dead. But first, we should do the news because there's quite a few things that happened this past week, and we'll kick it off with Microsoft's XO18 show that they held down in Mexico City. They did an inside Xbox presentation on Saturday with a bunch of different announcements, and of most import to me is a new mode coming to Sea of Thieves. That's right. It's called the Arena, and it's going to be a sort of player versus player kind of specific mode where you're competing with other pirates to find treasure. Everybody in the game has the same treasure map, same X marks the spot map, and it's just basically like a race to get as much treasure as you can. So that sounds great. They released a trailer for it and said that it's coming early in 2019. So I will be playing a lot of that coming up in 2019. But of course, they opened the show talking about Crackdown 3.
yeah.
And it's coming out February 15th, 2019. I think that actually they pushed it up away from
I
the
want to
22nd.
say they did, but I don't really remember.
Yeah, there
'Cause it was supposed to be
2 or
February
3
22nd.
games that were. Yeah, there were a bunch of games that were all coming out on February 22nd, so that's smart to
Right.
get out of the way. Like big
Yeah,
games
Anthem.
coming out February. There you
Anthem.
go.
Is one of the big ones. They had another little bit with Terry Crews that was pretty funny, and they announced a new multiplayer mode called the Wrecking Zone. it's a team-based competitive mode for Crackdown 3.
But the big thing is that you can destroy pretty much everything.
You can
All the
destroy
buildings
everything.
And yeah.
That's right. Power of the cloud. Yes. You can destroy all the buildings and
Power of the cloud.
Don't you remember a couple years back?
No, I know.
They showed Crackdown 3. They said that the demolishing buildings, that is because it's of cloud computing.
Oh, wow.
That was the whole thing.
I did not remember that.
Years ago.
I do remember, yes, that they were saying that all the magic was because of the cloud, but I forgot that Crackdown 3 was part of that whole thing. Yeah, okay.
So it looks fun. People in Mexico City were able to play it. And I'm looking forward to hearing impressions of that demo. And but the gameplay footage that they showed looked good. So
it was interesting. I saw I didn't see the whole conference, but I saw it was Joe Staten.
Yes.
Wasn't
he former Halo guy?
Halo, exactly. Halo, and then also Recore. He worked on a lot on Recore.
Oh wow,
that's right. Okay,
specifically like story stuff, I believe. And that is a good sign to have him up there talking about that, because multiplayer stuff is great, but I'm still really hoping that Crackdown 3 has a really, really exciting and fun single player campaign. Like it doesn't need to be special. It can be a lot like the original. But I think, a lot of folks were still worried that, all right, they showed multiplayer stuff. We still really haven't seen anything of what the single player is all about. So we're still waiting on that. So I'm excited. And as someone that has like gotten 2 6-month game passes for $30 a piece, like I have Game Pass for the next year anyways. So I'll be playing it. So it's exciting.
Game Pass is great.
Game Pass is great.
Did they talk at all about how Game Pass is coming to PC at that conference?
No.
Okay.
They did not.
Obviously.
Although that's the rumor, right? And even now you can subscribe to Game Pass and get the crossplay games on PC.
Correct.
Is that our first Larrabee lock, or?
No, that was just literally, I thought it was something that they talked about in like an investor call or something like that.
So. It was one of those rumors.
Okay.
Game Pass, by the way, I think this promotion goes through the holidays. You can subscribe, and it's only $1 for the first month.
Right. And you can get 6 months for $30 and stack it as much as you want.
You can do that right now? Is that out there now?
Right. I already have like 6 months left on mine. I stacked another 6 for
I'm gonna have to
$30.
I'll have to go do that.
And like you're literally at this point, we're talking about $60 for a year of Game Pass, especially with all the announcements of games that are coming to Game Pass. Like, it is just
at launch too. A lot of games at launch are coming right to Game Pass.
Exactly. And this is the kind of thing that is just right out of the gate justifies owning an Xbox One, even in like an S, just to be able to play all these backwards compatible games that they're giving you to free, these games that are day and date. Like this is by far the best value in gaming, where 3 or 4 years ago, that was PlayStation Plus. They were just delivering over and over and over on great games every month. Where now it's Game Pass, where I'm just kind of blown away with how much I'm getting with this for, like, again, we're talking about $60 a year if you just get the codes when they're on sale.
Yeah. And they do a good job like shuffling in new games throughout the month. It's not like PlayStation Plus or even Games with Gold, where you had, 1 game a month, or in the case of Xbox Live Gold, some things turn on like halfway through the month.
Yeah,
this is
games.
They've got like a almost constant flow of new stuff appearing on the surface. It's great.
Yeah, you just really, I think, the only concern at this point is, I think, CJ, you're one of them. Do you have the bandwidth cap for a service like this? Because you're talking about some games where you could get Fallout 4 right now, part of Game Pass. It's like 80 gigs to download it or something like that, right? Or Doom, another game that's gigantic. So you're just going to be, even though you have access to all these games, you're going to be really careful about what you pick and choose to download, because otherwise you're going to have, Mr. Xfinity calling you up and saying, like, we're going to charge you an extra $50 for a premium tier service.
Yeah. Luckily, I'm already on the unlimited plan, because they charge you like per, like,
is it real unlimited, or do you actually have a cap still?
This is real unlimited that I pay an extra $50 to get real unlimited. But
exactly.
Before, when my cap was 1 terabyte, I would go over it so frequently, and then it was like an extra $10 gigabyte or whatever.
That's ridiculous.
And I would end up spending more than the $50 to just get the unlimited anyway. So I just did that. So
yeah, it's a bummer. But again, you know,
it's a bummer.
It could be worse.
Could be worse.
Could be Canada.
Could be Canada.
Could be using Rogers.
There you go.
What I'm on. Yeah, Rogers. Yeah, I'm on Rogers.
You don't even know what cable company you
Rogers? No, it's my cell phone. Rogers honestly is not bad. I mean, but the thing is that in Canada, all cell phone plans suck. So, Rogers, I haven't had too much trouble with though.
And can we also like dispel the rumor? I think this is something that's been talked about a lot, is that 5G is going to solve all of these problems.
Oh, of course,
especially in rural areas. I'm like, how much you guys think you're already spending per month for 4G internet on your phones? Like, do you think it's just going to magically be free to get 5G? No, it's just, I hear tech podcasts talking about this all the time. Like, you guys are wrong. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. Some other XO announcements, some other big ones. We're apparently going to have a Winter of Arcade promotion, so they're bringing that back. It's going to be a winter.
I was happy to hear that. I hope it's a good promotion, because I remember, man, back when Summer Arcade was great. It was really great.
It was so good there for like a 2 or 3 year stretch. It was so good.
Yeah.
So that's coming December 6th through the 21st, and that's awesome. We're going to hear more about that at the Game Awards. First expansion for Forza Horizon 4. It's called Fortune Island. It's going to be set in the northern British Isles.
That's awesome.
That should be cool.
Yeah, their expansions are always great.
Let me ask you this. I wasn't sure. Is the expansion free if you have Game Pass? Is that part of the Game Pass? Or
I'm sure not.
You have to pay for that.
Just
as far as I know, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, Game Pass just gives you the base game, and then any DLC you get a discount on.
Totally fair.
So that's pretty cool. And they announced officially, this was rumored for a while, that they're acquiring Obsidian, and they made that official. And then they're also acquiring In Exile, Brian Fargo's company.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome.
That's great news as well.
Are you guys excited about what those two developers could actually bring to that console? Or is there anything that you could think that they might be working on, especially with Microsoft already owned properties? Or I'm guessing they're probably going to work on new IP.
Well, here's the thing. The thing that's most exciting to me about this is it brings with it like all the benefits of working with a first party directly, right? Which hopefully means creative freedom and not having that release date pressure, right?
Sure.
So I'm interested to see,
really use an extra 6 months kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what these two studios will produce. And I heard somebody on a forum saying maybe this is a sort of more PC focused kind of play, because these are RPG developers and not necessarily traditional console game developers. But I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think anything that Microsoft does from this point on seems to be very focused on crossplay.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't imagine that Obsidian and In Exile will be any different in that respect. But when you look at like the games that Sony and Nintendo are putting out from a first party standpoint, Microsoft really needed something. And so these two as kind of the cappers to the announcements that we had in the summertime, and maybe there are more to come, it's great to see. It's great to see that, I mean, Microsoft being very serious about games and the Xbox platform. So I like it.
Yeah,
I just hope that it sticks around, because it's not the first time we've seen Microsoft do this.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, I just hope that they don't give up.
I hope so too.
You got to think, as long as Phil is heading the ship, you know, if he's the captain
Phil
of the
Spencer,
ship,
you mean Phil Spencer, not Phil Theobald. Let's just be clear, because there's a Phil.
Correct. Yeah, as long as Phil Spencer is leading, you know, the Xbox division. Again, I think it was literally last time I was on the show, we talked about how he basically had to like turn the Titanic back around from a lot of bad decisions with the Xbox One at launch, like closing studios and not giving them either the resources or the time that they needed to create the games for the platform.
Right.
Just really short-sighted. He seems to have convinced the higher ups that this has to be a much, much longer, path to where they want to take the Xbox brand.
I think that probably the smartest thing, and I don't know if this was Phil Spencer alone who did it, or if this is his idea. We talked about before where cross-platform releases on Windows, like from a perspective of selling Xboxes, might not necessarily be the greatest thing. Where it's like, if you have a good PC, why would I buy an Xbox to play the new Halo when I know that it's going to be available day and date on the PC? However, I think from an internal standpoint, when you consider that Windows is obviously the company's biggest product, to link the Xbox to Windows so completely was great for the games division within Microsoft. I'm thinking, because I'm guessing it's definitely easier to justify spending the money on the games division when it's supporting Windows as fully as it's supporting the Xbox, as opposed to sort of a secondary thing, or let's call our online service on Windows Xbox Live, even though it has nothing to do with Xbox, which is what they were doing before.
Right.
I don't know if it was him, but it was a decision that was made under his during his tenure as leading the group. So I think smart.
To be fair, I actually think in a recent financial, I don't know why we're talking about financials a lot, but I think it might have been something I heard on Twitter or something, but I actually don't think Windows is their leading source of revenue these days. It's actually their services. So,
sure, but I mean, when you're talking about consumer facing products, they're known for Windows. Microsoft is Microsoft Windows.
Well, and now they want to do the Project Xtreme thing and bring the Xbox gaming platform to as many devices as they can. And it's going to be interesting to watch. Can't wait to see how all that plays out.
Hopefully it can pass the iOS store approval.
I hope so too. I wish that Sony had been stronger on that, or that that Valve had been stronger on that. Like, Sony has Remote Play. They have a PC and Mac client, and it's fine, but it's only just fine. Like, they're not making that available everywhere. They're not doing a big push or anything like that. And I hope that Microsoft really pushes that strongly and tries to get it approved by Apple to get on iOS and get on Android, and allows you to play any game you want from any device. That would be so cool. I love that idea. Anyway, another very important announcement this week, this time on the Switch. I'm talking about YouTube. Now available on the Nintendo Switch. Finally, they
figured it out.
You can stream.
But wait, I seem to
remember video episodes.
I seem to remember a couple of my co-hosts telling me that I was crazy for saying they needed YouTube on this thing, about a year ago.
Yeah, I don't think they need it, but it's certainly a nice to have. I did not download it, and I don't plan on downloading it.
You'll have it.
I didn't download it.
You'll have it.
He's got a new I have an iPad Pro. He does not need it.
Yeah, I have an iPad for that. I have an iPhone for that.
It's a $1,200 tablet to watch YouTube on.
Exactly. Need to justify the cost somehow.
I do too. So yeah.
Then, of course, the other important Switch announcement from earlier this week: Urban Champion has been released on the Switch as an arcade archives game by Hamster. So
only bringing
freaking
the best.
Believable.
Did not come out for the Nintendo Online, the Nintendo Entertainment System stuff that they released, but the arcade version of Urban Champion has come out as an arcade archives.
So I want to just say
$8, $7.99.
I want to just say that I feel like this means I wasn't really wrong anymore. What I was wrong about?
Still wrong.
No, listen to me. No, listen to me. But I was wrong in a different way. And what I was wrong about was not whether or not Urban Champion was coming to the system, because I assumed it would be on this NES service.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo has to put Urban Champion on everything. What I was wrong about was the depths to which Nintendo would reach when it comes to Urban Champion. No, we're not giving it to you for free. We're going to charge you for that shit. Again,
I think it's more Hamster that's doing this, because
I don't care.
Arcade perfect port of Urban Champion.
We need We need an arcade perfect port. Yeah. I
Oh my
mean,
god.
Hamster had previously put out versus
that
Super
digital
Mario
thing
Brothers,
like
and
pretty
Super
good.
Mario Brothers is on the Nintendo Entertainment System
Yep.
Switch Online thing.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't stop them from making it available.
Still hope.
Just saying.
By the way, when do the new games come out on the NES?
The 14th, I
Oh, the
think.
14th. Okay, I thought it was closer to the
Yeah.
beginning of the month.
Greg,
No.
are you with me on this thing being completely useless because they don't allow you to customize the buttons and the buttons are in the wrong position on this NES emulator on the Switch?
I think completely useless is a little bit of
For
a
anything, that you
little.
can
I'll
run
go ahead and
jump?
say it's a little bit of hyperbole, but
Hyperbole, yep.
but I mean, it would be. I don't
Just
see
move
why
your
they
thumb
don't give
up,
you the
Kevin.
option.
You know
Move
I
your
what?
don't
thumb
see why
up.
they don't give you the
I
option.
wish just Nintendo could figure out, what programmers were able to do 30 years ago with NES emulators, not 30 years ago, 20 years ago with NES emulators, like literally what they were able to do on their other consoles to allow you to switch the button positions.
Playing-
Because since the Super Nintendo came out, we ran and jumped with different buttons. You just can't go back. Like you
unless
just can't.
unless
You
you
can
unless
go
you were
back.
playing
Yes, you
unless you were playing Super Metroid, in which case the buttons were all screwed
We're
up.
talking about NES games though.
Well, you just said Super Nintendo.
No, you can customize the buttons in Super Metroid too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
But it
It's
hasn't stopped
not-
you from playing any.
I'm gonna
NES
say
games.
it's not quite as annoying as the Mega Man Anniversary Collection on the GameCube.
Okay.
That was unplayable.
But that was like again 15 years ago.
I know.
Like,
I'm
this-
just
they-
saying.
they
I'm
should
saying.
learn
I'm saying when
lessons
you're
from the
talking about
past.
button issues, that was unplayable. This is just annoying.
Okay.
That's
Sorry.
my feeling.
Sorry about that, guys. Had to get that off my chest.
Hey, it's okay. That's what this show is for. Little bit of sad news this week. Strategy
I thought
guide.
Urban Champion was the sad news.
Yeah, well, that I guess is sad news indeed that Urban Champion is still a thing. No, I'm talking about Prima Games, the company that has printed video game strategy guides for many years, is shutting down and will no longer be publishing guides.
I have not bought a Prima guide in ever.
Ever?
I have some, but I don't think I ever bought any of them. I think they were sent to me.
Oh man,
But apparently they did good work.
they do great work. Yeah, some of their newer stuff has been really great. Yeah, hundreds of pages of with really great art and stuff.
Oh, I found it. Have you guys ever? So I'm looking at Brady Games.
I remember Brady Games.
Right. Okay. So just talk
Brady
about Player's
Games.
Guide. Yeah, to talk about Player's Guides for a second, because like back when I was a kid, we couldn't really afford the official Nintendo Player's Guide or even like the official guides that would come out for games. So these were really important.
Yeah.
This totally unauthorized GoldenEye 007 strategy guide. That's how I figured out they had all like maps for all the levels. It had where all the secret missions and like the secret stuff and how to unlock everything,
Mhm.
which is great. I don't know if you guys have any memories of like completely unauthorized guides that you went to instead of the
No.
official ones. Okay.
Never.
No, I remember looking at the unauthorized guides at the store at like a
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble and being like, "This is the
They were so
shittiest
cheap.
guide."
Yeah, they're
This is
really
the
kinda
worst.
rough.
Like I think they had one. The one that sticks out of my memory is for NBA Jam, and it might have been like the really shitty like late acclaim NBA Jam one that I don't even. It was for the PlayStation or something. It
Like
was
the
awful.
one that
Anyway,
the one that was made after like Acclaim actually stole the NBA Jam name from Midway.
that's right. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking
NBA
about.
Jam Extreme.
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah. And the official the unauthorized guide from Brady Games was like it had player stats and that was it. It was like they did a full page spread on each player and the stats like went over like 2 pages and it was just it was like, oh my god, like why
Those
even
guys have lots of stats. What do you
waste-
want?
why even waste the pages on that?
Do either of you guys ever have to write a strategy guide for a magazine?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I started my career
That's what I
at Ziff
thought.
Davis as
I did
at Expert Gamer.
and I did a N64 book with John Riccardi. Actually, John Riccardi did the Super
Wow.
Mario 64 strategy guide. I did the Pilot Wing 64
This is in print?
strategy guide. Yeah, it's in print. And then I did a strategy guide on a
wish
bunch
I
of
had
PlayStation
those.
1 launch games.
Do you
That
remember
was
what it was
also
called?
published by EGM. It's like the unauthorized guide to Nintendo 64 video games. Like that's the full title of it.
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can find this.
I still have a bunch of copies of it.
I did Final Fantasy VI. I did Grandia. I did Sega Rally 2, Crazy Taxi, Metal Gear Solid on the Game Boy,
Wow.
Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation. That was fun. I actually
Oh.
drew maps for every level in Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation.
Is that the Dreamcast one?
Yes, the version I worked off of was the PlayStation, but that was on Dreamcast.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was so proud of myself because I drew all those maps on graph paper, and then I had one of our artists went through and made them look all oldified and crinkled, and then we had Jennifer Whitesides, who was a copy editor at EGM for years, write all the names into the maps because I had terrible penmanship and she had good penmanship.
That's cool.
Yes, indeed. But RIP to printed strategy guides.
I hated doing strategy guides. That is thankless work, and the people who love that stuff and do a good job at it, I have nothing but respect for.
Well, now, they work a lot with the publisher. Like directly, like before when you're talking about doing strategy guides for Expert Gamer and the unauthorized guides, you had no help.
No, I mean sometimes the publishers would help you out.
Occasionally,
they knew who we were. Obviously, like we weren't nobodies, so you would get some help in the form of like artwork and things like that.
Yeah, but they weren't like giving you maps.
No, not usually. No.
All right, should we do what you've been playing? I think it's time for that. Sound
sure.
Good?
You're the host. You decide.
Kevin, you go first. I want to hear what you think of Red Dead Redemption. See if it's any different than what we've been talking about on the show for the past 2 weeks.
I mostly just saw some stuff on Twitter, but basically I'm probably about 20 or 25 hours into the game. I think I'm still on chapter 2 for reference for folks out there. But I mean, I don't know how many chapters are in the game. So,
but 1 million.
Okay, but
I don't know.
I don't think it's uncommon or different opinion from a lot of folks to say that is a pretty slow start. You really have to just push through those first 5 hours, 10 hours, like any good RPG, you got to push through that start because that's always going to start slow. Like I think that's the best analogy I can make is to like a JRPG that just like a Final Fantasy 13 that just takes forever to get going. But once you get to that first main camp when you're away from like the snowy area, it's really great. It was great for the first 20 hours, and then I've started to slow down a little bit because it does become a little tiring when you have to take. I know they want you to do it, but it just takes so long to get from place to place, and I understand why they do that.
Can you explain it to me? In all seriousness,
why do they do that?
You understand why they do that? I'm curious what you think the reason is.
It's because I mean it's literally what they started with the original Grand Theft Auto. It's open world, so it is trying to create a realistic experience for the gamer so they can immerse themselves in what they're doing. And I think if anything, they with a setting like the Wild West, they want to take it to the ultimate degree. And they do a pretty good job sprinkling things throughout your travels to keep it interesting. Things that pop up, people that you can run into, stranger missions, things like that. And there's plenty of stuff that pops up on the map where you can always say like, oh, well, I'm close to this. I'm going to go over here and check out what's going on.
Okay, so I understand what I understand what you're getting at now. Yeah. They want you to experience the world organically.
Right. And it took me a while. I think they do a really bad job of really explaining the systems at the start. Again, I don't think that's, an uncommon opinion on this game because you just kind of don't know what you can get away with. And if I get in trouble, do I have to pay off that bounty immediately, or is this going to cause me trouble in every mission that I, partake in this area going forward? I think I don't necessarily like the aiming so much. The controls leave a lot to be desired. I did like increase the sensitivity a lot on that stuff, and I mess around so I'm like always sprinting, so I don't have to hammer the A button. So I did do some modifications with that.
But you do have to, so you can change that to running. You don't have to hold it down, but or you don't. But like sprinting, you still have to tap it, right?
Maybe.
I thought you could hold it.
No, I think I just been holding it. It just goes up because you're still draining your cores and stuff. So you're still going into your endurance core,
Okay,
and
okay.
all that stuff. But I just think there's like what I would really love, and it's the same thing that I would really love from JRPGs going forward. It's the same thing with like Octopath Traveler, which I have like sitting, on my shelf, and I haven't really opened it and gotten into it yet because I went through the demo and I really loved it. But again, I keep hearing 60, 80 hours, and most of my gym's getting a lot busier, so I'm having to be much more cautious with my game time.
Sure.
And at this point, what I would really, I don't know how you could do it. I'm not a game designer, and I'm especially talking about story dense games, but I think it would be a really interesting challenge for some of these developers that create very long games to make, like, I got 20 hours. Tell me a story in 20 hours. And then, no, but you know what I mean? But also, like, okay,
100% know what you mean.
have the 80-hour version, but just give me like the cliff notes, give me the meat, like just give me the good stuff. And try to create an experience that is still going to allow me to love the music, love the combat systems, love these characters, love the story, understand what's going on, but without having to go into town and talk to every single goddamn person.
Yes.
Yep. Like, this is specifically for RPGs, because how many like Dragon Quest 11, I haven't touched it yet because like 120 hours.
Like,
like
they do have some interesting changes there, like with icons above NPCs' heads that will tell you whether talking with them will advance the story or not.
Right. And I will say, playing this, like this is the first game I ever pre-ordered digitally because it was hyped to holy hell. It was hyped, probably the most hyped game probably since Grand Theft Auto 5. But I was convinced. I pre-ordered it digitally so I could install it on my Xbox One X. It looks incredible. It's unbelievably good looking. But it's going to probably take until at least like maybe Thanksgiving or Christmas till I can go back to it, because otherwise a lot of the games that I am playing are more bite-sized games that I can pick up, play, get done in 30 minutes and not feel like I need to go like there's just, it just takes too long to do a lot of stuff.
I think I just to cut you off there for a second, Kevin, because I think that you're making a really good point. And I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. We talk about this all the time in this show where, you're talking about your business taking off, which is great to hear, by the way. We talk about it too from the perspective of having children and families to take care of. So our game time is limited. So yes, I would much rather hear that it's a compelling story in 20 hours than it is in 120 hours. But further to that, you just made another good point where it's like my game time is limited in that I get to play in short bursts.
Yeah.
And if I only have an hour and I don't feel like I've made any progress in that hour, it's not a fulfilling experience in that moment to moment. You know what I'm saying?
Like, and I think a lot of those story missions you could probably get done in 30 minutes, but from watching a lot of the pre-release footage, it also gets to the point where you feel like you're missing out on the magical experience a lot of the reviewers have.
Right.
They're gonna go do everything where that's just not how I play. I think like
they're playing it in a marathon session. Like that's all they're doing for a week and a half. And it's like
and I think I did probably in a weekend. I probably did 16 hours. I played a lot in a weekend.
I mean, that says a lot too, though.
Yeah, I had a lot of time in a weekend, and I sat on my ass a bunch. There was bad weather, but then after I had to go back to work on Monday and I'm going to soccer games for the kids, like my athletes that are playing and stuff. It's just I would rather do that and pick up Red Dead again. But like that's one of those things where I haven't been playing a lot on my Switch lately, but that's where that kind of comes into play a lot. It's because it is a good go to sleep console and just pick it up, put it down.
Yeah, Hacker Alias Blair Farrell in the chat says he couldn't agree more about the playtime stuff that we're talking about, and says the sad thing is you would get so much loud backlash saying only 20 hours, not worth it.
Yeah, I saw something recently. Actually, I think it was yesterday, where Square Enix now is talking about Kingdom Hearts and how the next Kingdom Hearts is going to have 120 hours of content. I think, and that's my reaction. It's like, what? Really?
How do you
Like, I don't want 120 hours of content. Like, I just don't.
How do you guys compare? I mean, the reviews for this game were the most glowing reviews. I mean, it's like a 99 on Metacritic on Xbox, right?
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
like it is the best reviewed ever, best reviewed game ever for Xbox One, and for if you use that to compare it against other consoles. But it seems, and you mentioned Blair in the chat, you guys, a lot of people that I've heard actually talk about this game, they all say like, yeah, it's just like everything that it's doing is the best. Like it's got the best visuals, it's probably got the best voice acting and storytelling and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, there's just too many things that get in my way to enjoy it. How did so many of the reviewers not feel that way? How did they miss a lot of these, or did it just not matter to them because everything else just raised that score up so much?
See, and that's the thing, and that to me is the most confusing aspect of this. Like, it's not the same as if, say, like Dark Souls, right? Like, Dark Souls is not for me. It's not my kind of game. It's not what I'm looking for in a game.
Same, yeah.
But me feeling that way and having a completely different opinion than a lot of the reviews I read about how everyone loves it and it's glowing. It doesn't. I get that, right? It's like, okay, it's successful in what it's doing. It's not for me. It's not something I'm that interested in. So I get it. But to me, this is the most confusing part. I love open world games. I'm a big fan of Rockstar open world games.
Yeah. GTA 5 was incredible.
I loved GTA 5. And I'm just like, what am I not getting? And I'm not the only person, like, among my friends and on the podcast and among our listeners. I've had this discussion so many times where it's like, what's so bizarre to me is I just don't understand what I'm not getting that everyone adores about this game.
Greg, cars are more fun to drive than horses.
They're faster.
Straight up. They're faster. There's more varieties, and like you don't have to worry about jacking someone's horse and then having a bounty out on you. I think there's such a strive towards realism in the game that makes so many aspects of it great.
Right. A friend of mine, Ryan, was streaming the game last week, and he had just sort of jumped into it, and I was really interested to hear his opinion because he felt pretty much the same way I did. I watched him play for a while, and then he texted me afterward and said, "Yeah, I'm not crazy about this game." He said, "I think it's because I was looking for a game, and they sold me a cowboy simulator."
Okay, no, I think that's some hyperbole.
I disagree.
But I think, again, I still, from what I've played of this game, it has been an absolute blast, like doing train heists and stuff like that. The story missions set up some really fun combat scenarios, and at the end of the day, the characters are really interesting. Going back to the camp and hearing the stories from those characters are pretty interesting. This is coming from someone that hammers that A button to get through the text on a lot of games. I mean, I think the only two games that I really cared about the story from last year were Nier and Yakuza 0. And I mean, this isn't to that level good, but at least it is, like, it's interesting to see a young John Marston. It's interesting, the dynamic between Dutch and a lot of the other characters in there, especially the women in the camp, and how they interact with the men and the role that they play, and kind of how, like, it's just, I mean, it's 1899. It's
sure. I think Red Dead, more than anything else, like, proves that video game reviews, like, they could give the next Madden 10s whatever, like, it's still not going to be for me. Like, it can be a great video game for the people who are looking for that kind of video game.
See, but that's where I'm so confused in that. Again, like, if they give Madden 10s, okay, great. I if I play it and I don't like it, that's because I'm not really a fan of the genre. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, whereas this, I am. But anyway, I one of the things, I think maybe, Kevin, you said it a little bit earlier, where and maybe that's it, is that we don't really know what these reviewers' personal scales are. And somebody, I think it was Blair Farrell in the chat, just mentioned too. He's talking about Victor Lucas, who I have crazy respect for when he reviews games. And he said, like, the EP's review, Victor Lucas's review, it's like several minutes of complaints, and then he gives it a 9.5 out of 10. But I guess to me, it's like, okay, what are you weighing? And how much are you weighing everything? Like, several minutes of complaints, but there's 80 hours of content here. It's great writing. It's amazing visuals. The game's gorgeous, great attention to detail, et cetera, et cetera. So is that enough to raise it up, even though you don't like the experience all the time? Is just that massive amount of very high quality content enough to raise it up? It might be. And I don't know. I'm just saying, like, maybe that's where the disconnect is happening.
Possible, but we saw this with Breath of the Wild, right? Everything was glowing, and then in the weeks after that game came out, people started bringing up dissenting opinions about the weapon system or about the exploration or whatever things that were lauded about the game are suddenly seen as downsides. And not saying that I agree with those. I loved Breath of the Wild, but yeah, I can see where those people are coming from. I could see where you were coming from, but with not liking the breakable weapons.
The thing is too, is that I feel like this game has actually thrown into relief like what Breath of the Wild is really successful at, which is Breath of the Wild has a lot of systems too, but they work together in a much better way than Red Dead does. And I think that's one of the other things that bothers me. Like you talked about weeks ago, CJ, when you come across the guy on the side of the road trying to fix the shoe of his horse and he gets kicked in the head. Yeah. And it's like realizing that those sort of random events are only random in that whatever one is triggered is random, but they're going to play out exactly the same for every single person who sees them.
Yeah.
Right. And whereas you look at something like Breath of the Wild,
yeah,
the systems interact with one another and you have interesting, or Far Cry is another example. Like the systems interact with each other and you have interesting things that can happen. Like in Far Cry,
that's true.
You hear stories about people leading predators into camps and watching like a lion tear apart a camp, basically, you'll never, I don't feel like you're ever going to see that in Red Dead Redemption 2 because they don't want you to experience it that way. They want you to experience it in exactly the way they want you to experience it.
I think you're right. And then, when I saw that dude get kicked in the head by that horse, and I thought this is a magical moment, I'm going to clip this and post it to Twitter. Like if I was reviewing the game and I had an embargo and I couldn't say anything about that experience, and I didn't know that anyone else had experienced that exact same moment and thought that was also a sort of emergent magical moment, I might have given the game more credit than I ended up giving it after I saw that everyone else had seen that exact same scenario.
For me, this has been a really interesting opportunity because I have just found that while I still love following video games, still love playing video games, I'm narrowing that focus of the games that I will consider playing more and more these days. I'm giving,
but at the same time, we just talked about Game Pass, and you said,
yeah, but
a great value to be able to sell stuff. I totally get what you're saying.
Downloading everything that's on Game Pass, like Like the only thing I'm looking forward to is like the new, like I would like to play through Ori again and get the new Ori game, and Forza and Gears and all that stuff, and Halo. But even like more and more, I've just like, what are the games that I want to play? Why do I want to play them? What am I going to get out of them? And a lot more, it's because it's more for social engagement. I am literally turning into, like, the other game I was going to talk about is NBA 2K19 because I have a buddy that wants to play NBA 2K19. That's why I'm playing it. And it's a social experience more than anything.
And I think that has that's totally legit. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And if it's something, if this game speaks to you, then this game speaks to you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's one thing that I wanted to mention real quick before we get off this game, because I don't know if you guys follow Mark Brown, Game Maker's Toolkit.
Yeah.
He wrote a great blog post about why he's not playing this game anymore. And there's one piece in particular of that blog post. We should put a link to it in the show notes. Actually, it's on Patreon, but it's not hidden behind a paywall or anything. But talking about how Rockstar wants you to experience this game in a very specific way, there's just a couple of paragraphs here that I wanted to mention here. He says, I failed missions for trying to flank around the bad guys. That's counted as leaving my crew behind. I failed for trying to take enemies out using stealth instead of loud gunfire. I failed for trying to solve problems in creative ways. I failed because I broke the law, never mind that I'm playing as an outlaw, and the game has a whole police response system built in. The missions can also remove mechanics arbitrarily. In one, I wasn't allowed to take my gun off my horse. In another, I wasn't allowed to whistle for my horse, so I had to chase on foot. and the bandit mask system works randomly during missions. Most of the time, you'll still get a huge price on your head and have to use most of your earnings from that mission to pay off your bounty.
Yeah.
That, to me, I think is the biggest problem I have with this game, is that we've gotten so used to the multi-system open world games letting you be very creative in your solutions, and this game does not let you do that. And that's, to me, is the biggest failing on this game, personally. But anyway, just wanted to read that out. We should put a link to it. It's a fascinating blog post.
But you're enjoying it, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go back to it eventually. You know, that's probably, I mean, that's what everyone says about a lot of games, especially like those long RPGs. Like to go back to it eventually. But, you know, for the time being, I'm mostly just playing like smaller bites, or just to get my mind off stuff. And I've had, to be honest, I've just been having so much more fun doing my gym stuff these days, where I've been focusing more of my energy on that.
And all that said, I'm still playing the game too. I'm playing it slowly, but I'm still playing it. So, you know,
there's a lot of other great games out right now. It's just, it's been a really awesome year for games.
It really has. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of awesome year for games, have you guys checked out those pound HDMI connectors for retro consoles? For example, the Dreamcast, the original Xbox, coming out, I believe, next month on the PS2, then the TurboGrafx, and also, I think, I think I wrote it down, and the Super Nintendo.
Are these the ones that are a little bit cheaper than they're not like high end?
They're about 20 to 30 bucks. And
I'm interested in one for the Dreamcast.
Okay, the one for the Dreamcast is fantastic because it's basically a VGA box, but an HDMI out. So the only problem is it only works with the VGA enabled games, but it works flawlessly. It works absolutely flawlessly on the Dreamcast.
See, that doesn't leave me out too much, because right now the only games that I play on Dreamcast are VGA enabled games through the VGA box using S-Video. So, which means I have to go through FrameMeister. So if I can just plug directly into my TV,
you don't play a lot of NBA Showtime.
No,
that's okay. That's a game that I wish I need to go break out my hex editor to enable VGA support on that game again and burn it through my Disc Jungler. You guys remember Disc Jungler, right? Okay.
No, I'm not a filthy pirate.
Yeah, I know.
Never was.
But anyways, I mean, I was messing around with these because what led me to the NBA 2K19 is my buddy Eric has been coming over, and we've just been having like retro game hangouts. Specifically on the Dreamcast, we started going through like NBA 2K2 and NFL 2K2. We're playing a bunch of games of that because we both grew up playing those games. And this eventually led to me picking up the original Xbox HDMI adapter, which is really important because the component, like official component cables for the original Xbox, are very expensive, like $70.
I need to sell some of mine.
Plus, yeah, but not like the third-party garbage. If it's like either Monster or official Microsoft, like whether it's the official Microsoft or the breakout box thing, I think it was called the HD pack or something.
Yeah,
like
that's what I've got.
Yeah, the HD AV kit, I think. They're very expensive, so having an inexpensive option is great. The only problem with is that the pound HDMI cable does not function well with later editions or later revisions of the original Xbox. So sometimes you'll have kind of like a little like weird line going on at the top. Doesn't make games unplayable. Otherwise, they look really, really good. But hopefully, if you would want to make sure that you look at the back of your Xbox and look at the manufacture date and try to get an earlier one sometime in like 2001 or 2002, 2002. Anything later than that, you might actually have this video issue that's documented on their website. And I just ordered one for the PlayStation 2 because GameStop had PS2 Slims for $30 a couple weeks ago, so I bought one of those.
What a great deal!
That's a good deal.
a really good deal. And they're like, GameStop does a pretty good job of with their premium refurbished retro stuff. They clean them. They usually open them up. They clean them all out, and then they snap them back together with a little sticker on the back to show that they went in there and did some stuff. So that's recommended. But anyways, this then led to NFL 2K5, which I still think to this day is the best feeling, best playing football game out there. And this is something I had to have very rigorous debates on Rich Grisham's panel at PAX a couple of years ago, because the panel was all about things that sports games don't do well today that they used to do back then. And I think one was being able to pick them up and play them pretty quickly, especially for a sim game like NFL 2K5. Plus, if you haven't played it lately, still has probably the best tackle animations in football games. And the ESPN, I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the 2K5, and they were doing it a little bit in 2K4, they were integrating ESPN branding, which meant like, Rick Berman, like coming on and doing pre and post game, talking about players, showing highlights of you actually making plays in the game. Like actually they were recording highlights, recording, the data or whatever, and then playing it back in the highlights for the game at halftime and post game, which is still really impressive, especially when you're thinking about this is 2004 that they were doing it. So we just got really into playing NFL. We've been playing lots of NFL 2K5, which is super weird, and that again led to us playing NBA 2K19, which I'm guessing you guys don't play. But it's been fun to pick it up because I don't do the my player thing, which I know is their big microtransaction, like Ethan Einhorn nightmare scenario tunnel for gamers. But for me, I'm usually just playing online or playing in person with my buddy Eric. So it's been quite fun, and it came free as like part of a promotion. So it was good to be able to play that. And I also played some Spider-Man, but I bounced off that pretty quickly. I'm hoping
you roped off that pretty quickly.
I just
roped off it.
Well, I got I imported a Japanese PS4 Pro white because it's the new quieter
model.
It's a quieter model, and I'd rather have white consoles if I can do it. And I played some Spider-Man, but then like 3 days later, Red Dead came out, so I ran out of time to play it. But I'll probably go back to it. I like the music. Spider-Man has a really good soundtrack.
It does. It's a great game.
Really great game. Oh, sorry. And finally, I'm playing a bunch of Zelda games because it's that time of the year, and I'm trying to find a good Zelda game. I always play Zelda games in the fall and the winter. I think
I was going to say, what's that time of year mean?
No, it's. I think it's a holiday thing because I used to always get Zelda games for Christmas. Right.
Also, do you have to look that far to find a good Zelda game?
Well, it's figuring out what
I was going to say.
I want to play.
It's too much choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've narrowed it down to 3 games. It's Ocarina of Time. It's Link Between Worlds. And it's Link to the Past, which Link to the Past is the quickest. Then Ocarina of it's probably
the best.
No, I would say Link Between Worlds is the best Legend of Zelda game.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I can't let go of Link to the Past.
As there's a gold Ocarina of Time box behind CJ right there.
Is there?
Is there?
I don't think so.
Oh, maybe there's not. Sorry, maybe it was just the compression. But it actually led me because let me real quick. Koji Kondo, the best composer ever in the history of video games, period. Composed some of the most emotional, most important music to me. And that led me to going and like looking up the Breath of the Wild. No, excuse me, not Breath of the Wild. Why am I blanking on it right now? As what's the Wii U one with the? It's late for me, guys. Sorry, I'm usually in bed by now. Come on, the Wii game, the second Wii game,
Skyward Sword.
Thank you, Skyward Sword, which I think is a really underappreciated soundtrack.
It is a very underappreciated game, as far as I'm concerned.
Totally, 100%. And
it's got problems, but it is a fantastic Zelda
You've got
game.
problems,
but think about
the Motion Plus stuff and the Tad Notes thing late in the game.
But think about what they could do with a Switch port of this game, and like what they did with Twilight Princess, cut out some of the fat and make it a little bit better. I would love. That's the game I want to play right now, but I don't want to pull out a Wii U to do it.
I'll tell you what, Kevin. I got your answer for it. I got an answer for you, and it's going to be something you've never experienced before.
Oh God!
You should play Crusader of Senti.
Crusader of Senti.
Is that for
exactly
the Sega Genesis?
It is, and you'll be surprised at how much it's a Zelda clone. But you should play it. CJ's best friend Mike and I played it during my my stream last week for Extra Life, and we played it for like 6 hours. It's pretty damn good.
Koji Kondo composed the music for it. Right? I want to play this most partially.
That was Yuzo Koshiro, wasn't it?
I don't think it was Yuzo Koshiro.
It wasn't Yuzo Koshiro?
No. Okay. You're thinking of
I think
Yeah.
to get but the point that I'm trying to make is the reason why the Legend of Zelda series is so important to me is it has such an emotional response when I play
Yeah.
those games. Like I am so emotionally invested, very thin stories, but it's the music, it's the cutscenes, it's like literally this week I had to go back and open up the clip of when Zelda is getting ready to go through the gate of time in Skyward Sword, and like I forget the protector for Zelda. It's the same character in all the games. I can't, again, it's late. You know,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
it would like just step in front and like just really emotional
Impa?
music. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. And again, it's just something I've been thinking about a lot this week is, you know, how emotionally connected we can get to these games. And it's why we become lifelong fans of these franchises, whether it be Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, these days Uncharted or Final Fantasy games. That's why I'm searching for a Legend of Zelda game. And I just don't know. It's probably going to be Link Between Worlds because that's probably, again, the best one to play and best to replay.
It is. I really there was that rumor, what was it, earlier this year they were going to remake Link Between Worlds on Switch.
How great would that be?
I was like, I hope they
again.
do that because I'll play through it again.
And that's the thing is like, I don't know, should I wait right now? Because right now, New Super Mario Brothers U is coming out in a couple months. Like,
Yeah, January.
Still, like, I think
Get
that's
excited about New Super Mario Brothers U.
No, well, I think that's the point. Is like, I think you guys would be in agreement. Like, the Nintendo Switch has not really had a bunch of bangers lately. Like, it's been unless you like Smash Brothers, which I'm not. I'm gonna buy it because of just how crazy that game looks. But I'm not a Smash Brothers fan, so there really hasn't been a lot for me to turn my Nintendo Switch on for lately.
Yeah,
Nintendo games. That's why I buy the Switch. It's
Animal Crossing though coming next year.
not an Animal
right?
Crossing guy, unfortunately.
Oh,
I would love
Fire Emblem.
Not a Fire Emblem guy. I tried multiple times to get into those games. They're boring. Lots of reading. Sorry, like they're really high quality games.
Lots of reading.
Lots of reading.
No, I get exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. I feel the same way about a lot of games. Yeah.
So for me, it's about I want great music. I want action. I want a little bit of story, but like there's just make games a little bit shorter for me. And I unfortunately, I still want that from big first party developers. I love a bunch of indie games, but it's different when it's made by Nintendo or made by Microsoft. Like when the new Halo comes out, I will be up at midnight to play that game because I still like Halo is still oddly, one of my top 3 or 4 franchises.
Yep. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what the next 3D Mario game is. And where they take Zelda, because right now, I think we've talked about it on the show. It's like they've got this choice, right? Like they've got Breath of the Wild, which is a fantastic game and critically acclaimed, and then they've also got Link Between Worlds, which is fantastic, and they've got this like 2 different paths for Zelda that they could take on, and they have one platform.
I think they should go 2D next. Obviously, I mean they should do.
I think they should too.
I mean, like you said. Make it super up res, just make it look ridiculous, run at 60 frames per second, because there's still a lot of people that don't play 3D Zeldas. They just want to play the 2D ones too.
Yeah. Remake of Zelda 2.
Amen to that, brother.
Hell no. Come on. Oh, God, I tried so hard to like that game.
Yeah, let's just remake the same shit over and over again. Let's not go with the one game that was different.
I've also tried over and over again to like that game. And I also want some kind of reimagining of Super Mario Brothers 2. Make it happen.
I know, I heard
Make it happen.
Yeah. Where's my Mario Maker for Switch? Like I would love.
Yeah, that was rumored.
I'm shocked that that's not out yet.
That was rumored for so long. Like even right around launch, it was like they're gonna make Super Mario Maker for Switch. Where is it?
Like take that ARMS money and take that Splatoon money and put it towards good games.
Yeah, although they got to add Super Mario Brothers 2 to the Mario Maker if they re-release it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like really like call out Splatoon in ARMS.
Splatoon is great. I was playing Splatoon today.
Okay.
I've spent over 110 hours on that game. I'll have you know.
Okay,
I haven't even finished the story in that game.
the Splatoon story, Splatoon 2 story.
I've never
Yeah.
wanted to shoot myself more than right
They're
now.
bringing Clive
What?
Barker to do the story for Splatoon 3. Clive Barker.
They should.
Splatoon.
Yeah.
He was so big.
Stephen
back then.
King's Splatoon.
Yeah. What was that awesome 4-player top-down game that they had? There was 2 of them for the original Xbox, Hunter the Reckoning. That's what it was.
Hunter the Reckoning.
I don't know if you remember.
There you go.
Anyways, sorry
remember
for
that
taking
game.
up so much time. You guys are great for letting me do that.
All right, Greg.
Hi.
You want to talk now?
Sure. I have a big list here, but I'm not going to go through all of it. But I am going to say for the different games I was streaming this week, on Thursday nights, I ask people who donate or subscribe in my Twitch channel to pick a game for me to play. And normally it's a game that they pick from the list of games that I already own. However, one viewer, Sarah Bess, who has been around since I started doing this, and decided to send me a couple of Genesis cartridges to play this past week. And so the first one was, I'm going to hold these up for anyone who's watching YouTube. The first one was Ordinary Sonic.
I love that label. It's great.
And
Sonic.
And Sonic 2 XL.
Okay.
So Ordinary Sonic, I'm just going to talk about these for a minute. These are both ROM hacks
Yeah.
that I'd never heard of before. And the people that did know what they were just could not wait for me to actually play these. So Ordinary Sonic, and I don't know if that's what it's actually called, is Sonic 1. But a few seconds after you start playing, the whole screen goes to static. And then you come back to the level you're in, and everything's dark. Everything's either dark or red. And all the rings have turned red, and they're negative rings now. Everything's a one-hit kill. So if you get touched by anything, you die, no matter how many rings you have. And after a few seconds, the drowning music will start playing, and Metal Sonic will start flying in from the left of the screen and getting closer and closer to you. And if he catches you, you lose your life. It's basically a nightmare world. You keep going between. And the only way to get out of it is to find a monitor. And they're all placed where they're normally placed in the levels. And you hit that, and the static come on again, and then you're back into the regular world again. But only for a few seconds before it goes to the nightmare world. It's super difficult.
I'll bet.
I managed to beat... I played it for 45 minutes. I managed to beat the first... No, I didn't beat the first boss. I got to the first boss once.
Oh my god! All right,
but it was interesting. Should check out the archive. Sonic 2 XL is just Sonic 2, except Sonic gets fatter with every ring he touches.
Yeah. Oh damn!
Big stomach Sonic, chili dog Sonic,
and his sprite's been replaced with this sprite that's getting gradually fatter. It's hilarious, and the only way to lose the weight is to run. So the more distance you run, the thinner you get. So I played that too, and I think I got into the third set of levels. I'm not as familiar with Sonic 2 as Sonic 1. I got into the third set of levels, but again, you don't if you get to the point where you get too fat, he's literally too fat to move. He just sits there and pants for a few seconds, and then he dies because he can't work off the weight. Anyway, they were interesting.
Has anyone been kind enough to get you a Pulseman repro?
No.
Have you played Pulseman?
No, I haven't.
This is the Sega Genesis guy, folks.
Well, I mean,
come on, man.
I mean, I know I've looked at it, but I've never seriously played it.
Why don't you go to Etsy tonight and just break the law and just order a copy from someone else that is also breaking the law, because it has first off a dope soundtrack, and it's like really fun. It is probably one of the best games on the Genesis.
Isn't that the one done by Game Freak?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I mean, I have played it, but I haven't played through it.
Okay, just check.
Game Freak, the Pokemon people.
Yeah.
Phil did it. Phil made it.
Phil Freak.
Yeah.
One of the other games that I tried real quick this week is and this code was actually given to me by the PR firm for this game. It's called Steel Rats. It's a weird hybrid of it's a platformer, I guess, but you're on a motorcycle the whole time. You're on a motorcycle. Actually, you know what it is? It's like Trials, but it's a platform game.
Okay.
And it's actually done by this, I think it's a Polish company that did Urban Trials, which is like Trials, but not quite. I think it's using that engine, but like you're basically it's got scrolling levels, and you can move sort of up and down in the path you're on, kind of Excite Bike style. And then like if you have to turn around, you have to press a button to actually change which direction you're facing. And if you need to do a U-turn, you want to push up or down while you're doing that to change your directions and go the other way. But yeah, the whole thing's done on a motorcycle with like you build it up, but when you start, you have like a buzz saw front wheel that you can use to cut through enemies and obstacles. It's pretty neat. It's interesting. You can tell it was done on a bit of a lower budget. But I played it probably for, I don't know, an hour and a half, and I got to an area that I had to get down this long path while there was something crashing down above me. And I just, for the life of me, could not do it. So I was a little bit, I kind of lost interest in it pretty fast because it was holding my interest in that. I want to see what this does next. Not sure I'm sold on it yet. And then I got to this point where it's like, wow, this feels completely impossible. So I don't know that I'll ever go back to it, but it's an interesting thought anyway. It's like Trials, but a level-based platform game.
Okay.
As weird as that sounds. What else? Oh, so really got into back into PSVR this week.
Yeah.
Mostly because of Tetris Effect. Which
Yeah.
I know CJ you played as well.
I did.
Went out and bought it because somebody tweeted to us whether or not Mark McDonald came through with codes. No, he did not. Nor should he feel like he has to.
Exactly.
I wanted to have it physically. I played the demo after Phil talked about it, and I was like, yeah, I want a copy of this. I like this. I like the progression of it.
Yeah.
Although I found out that I'm really not as good at Tetris as I thought I was. Because man, do I suck.
Well, and they have the leaderboards up there, so you can really see how good you are at Tetris.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty rough there, but I can kind of pretty much echo what Phil said last week in that I didn't like Luminous at all. Gameplay from a gameplay perspective, I really didn't like that game. I forgot
this was the anti-Luminous podcast.
It really is.
I'm in the same boat.
But you know what I loved about Luminous was the audio, the music, and the fact that what you did affected the audio completely. Yeah. And so they've taken what I liked about Luminous and put it into a game that I actually enjoy, and I'm having a great time with it. It's beautiful. Yeah. It sounds great. It's Tetris. I'm hearing that there are weekend challenges for the community, which I took part in, and I'm
hearing
that a new level may have been unlocked this weekend that I haven't checked in and looked at yet.
Well, let me.
Mark just tweeted something about that.
Because we got this question a bunch on Twitter. It's like, yeah, but you said it was good, but it's Tetris, and it's $40 for Tetris, and
that's an asshole statement to make. Come on,
I know. I was
like that. Like you think, oh yeah, man, they just like ported Game Boy Tetris to PS4. Go look at the videos for it. That's such a lazy, snarky remark. I know who made them, Mike. Come on, dude. Mike is such a good critic at a lot of the stuff that he talks about. It was just like a lazy, snarky comment. And I love Mike. I think he has some of the best criticism of games out there. Like, play it first. Play the demo.
I'm not even referring to Mike's comment because I got a bunch of tweets about
it. Might not have been Mike. It might have been him, like in a list of folks. I think one of them was also Superfan TJ, who also like, dude,
it was
go do a little bit of research before making like Twitter's not like Twitter can be better. It doesn't have to be a place for us to just dump.
Well, here's the thing.
Quick hot takes.
Calm down.
I haven't even played the game, so this is
I streamed it on Friday, and I think the archive is still up on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/P1 podcast that I streamed it on. And you can see it, and it's not that it's just Tetris, because just Tetris, fine, we've all played that, whatever. But you do see the level progression in the single player campaign that I'm doing, and the way that it like speeds up in later levels and then slows down. Like,
yeah, that really threw me when the first time it happened.
like that really started to make things hectic in a way I wasn't expecting. And then later, over the weekend, I did the weekend challenge mode. I did the 3 of the event challenges that were
Yep.
up, and one of them has different effects, like turning the board completely upside down, including the controls
Oh God.
reversed. And that was such a mind bender. It does this every few seconds. It'll change what's going on the screen, and you just kind of have to roll with it. And that, to me, is like the best innovation to Tetris gameplay than has been around in the last 20 years or 10 years at least. Whenever Tetris DS came out last, that was like the last good version of Tetris.
Yeah.
But to me, like all the online leaderboard stuff and the weekend challenge, like that is a great addition to what already is a great classic puzzle game.
Yeah, that whole speed up, slow down thing, that kind of threw me for a loop, but not for too long. But playing through the campaign mode, because yeah, like when you you play through groups, like clusters of levels in campaign mode.
Yeah.
And as you complete one in one play session, you start the next one, and whatever garbage was left on your screen
You have to
previously is there. So, and then you get into one of these sections. Then I would get to one of these sections where it gets really fast, and I'm like, Jesus, I have so much crap on the screen right now, and I just couldn't handle it. I was like, uh-oh, I'm done. And I'm thinking, man, like, and this was in the second cluster of levels when this first happened to me. Like, if this is speeding up and getting this hard this quickly, I'm not sure what I should be doing here, because I don't think I'm good enough to get past this, right? Like, and I'm playing a normal at this point.
Yeah,
but I tried it a couple more times, obviously, and then I realized that, oh wait, the speeding up and slowing, it doesn't speed up based on your progression like Tetris does. It slows back down again. It's literally changing the pace of the game.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's a cool idea. And I also love that thing that I forget what it's called, but that meter that you can fill up, where you basically bring everything to a stop and you can just try to get as many lines as possible. Once you figure out not to play that section like you would normally play Tetris, where, well, at least the way I normally play it, where you're kind of trying to bring the lines down or trying to build a Tetris, it literally just wants you to get single lines as fast as you can.
Yep.
And once you figure that out, it's actually a lifesaver. I had a couple of points in my campaign when I was playing last night where I used that to pull myself out of a really sticky situation, because the second you complete a line during that session, or that piece of it, when the bar is full, it drops that line to the bottom, and you've got access to everything that was under it. So you can really clear your board. You can get a great score boost, but you can really clear the board as well. So really dig that a lot too.
It's just it's a really fun Tetris game, and part of it is throwing on a pair of headphones and holding that DualShock, because you know, it's a Mizuguchi game, so he does a lot of interesting things with vibration in the controller.
Sit on the controller.
CJ puts it right on his crotch.
It's the only way to play. Yeah. It's just a fantastic game, and yeah, it's worth $40.
Sitting there with the VR helmet on your head, controller on your crotch, big grin on your face.
Have you guys seen John Linneman's Tetris like retrospective? He went through like 45 different versions of Tetris. Or no,
I'll have to watch that.
It's a 45-minute video. He went through 25 different versions. If you guys are listening, go to YouTube and search Digital Foundry Retro or Digital Foundry Tetris and watch it. He did an absolutely incredible job and he worked so hard on this video, and you can tell from just watching it. It's just a great history and retrospective of Tetris. All the ports, like he even covered like CDI ports of Tetris, Virtual Boy. Very, very much worth watching. And I will step back again. TJ and Mike, I'm sorry for that heated comment, but again, like I think both those guys are really good critics of video games, and I think there's no way that you could look, even just looking at the trailer for this game, and say that it's just Tetris. Like you have, like, I mean, there was a free demo that was out there. Hopefully they put that out there for good so people can try before they buy. But I can't wait to play it. And do you guys think I don't want you to like. I wanted to actually ask John Linneman this too, but do you think they
He's
could
not
pull
on our
this
show.
off? I know. Do you think you could pull this off on Nintendo Switch? Because obviously, the ideal console would be a portable one for a Tetris game.
Why would it be ideal?
Because you can take it anywhere and you can like plug in headphones.
Isn't that just ideal for video games?
No, but Tetris is more or less known as a portable game.
I know. I'm just being a dick because I hate the whole, this will be perfect for Switch, when really you can literally say that about any video game in the world ever.
Yeah, what I mean is, I don't know if it is a game that they're technically capable of getting on that hardware, but
I think they could.
I don't think they're doing anything there that the Switch couldn't do.
Yeah.
okay. Hopefully
Except,
it's just like this VR deal with a 6-month window.
except for the VR mode,
Well, obviously.
which I played.
Yeah.
I don't know that it adds too much. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks pretty, and I like playing it in that mode just because, I mean, the graphics are kind of enveloping you as opposed to just staring at them on a screen. But it's not as effective as, say, something like Thumper. I found Thumper felt like a much better experience in VR, even though it's literally the exact same experience when you're not playing it in VR.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tetris Effect is nice, but it's nice in that it just it immerses you a little bit more in the graphics, but it doesn't really do much else. I don't know what else I was expecting it to do, but I wasn't sitting there like going like, "Oh my god, it's in my head," you know, or anything like that. So,
Okay.
anyway, but speaking further to that, I busted out the PSVR, and I had mentioned a couple weeks ago that I wanted to check out Astrobot and Moss as well. And one of our listeners, Sean697, goes by the hacker alias of Sean697.
Awesome. Sean's the man.
Out of the blue says, "Hey, here's a code for Retrobot and Moss."
Wow.
So thank you very much for that. So I played them.
I'm sure Sean's in Hawaii too, so he's obviously living a better life than all of us. He's enjoying the beautiful, beautiful weather in Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been to Hawaii. Played Moss,
Yeah.
which is beautiful. So it's just basically like it's a puzzle game. It's like a platform puzzle game. I know this is old, but I'm talking about it now. Where all I've played so far is you're in this forest and you're basically treated as like this ethereal being that's overlooking each section of the level. It uses what would be akin, I would call it, like flip scrolling, where each scene itself doesn't scroll. So your mouse character will walk in from one side, and then you play that puzzle and get them off the exit, and then everything goes dark, and you're into the next area. But yeah, it's very much like something you would think like a flashback or Prince of Persia, where there's a little bit of light combat, but it's much more puzzle oriented. And you, as this sort of being, also your controller is basically, I'm guessing, a fairy. It's this little sprite that can grab things with like you use your controller to grab things and move around platforms and stuff like that to help the mouse get through each stage. So it's pretty cute. I only played it for about an hour, so but I'm glad I've got it because I'm looking forward to digging into it more.
And you mean Astrobot Rescue?
No,
it's not called Retrobot.
Oh, did I say Retrobot? I'm sorry.
You did.
Anyway, Astrobot Rescue is friggin' awesome. It's it's a truly good platformer in VR. I am really digging it. So the Astrobots are these characters that anybody who has a PS4, especially if you even just bought a camera, you probably will recognize them if you ever got the PS4 camera and you have that. They're these little robot characters that have been around since that.
Yeah, from the Playroom.
Playroom, thank you. Where you could take pictures of yourself or do videos of yourself where they're actually running around in sort of an AR style game. But then they also were part of the VR stuff when it first came out. And there were a bunch of different mini games using these characters. So they basically gone and made a full platformer using these characters.
Yep.
And it's kind of along the same lines where you have a physical presence in the world. You can use, obviously, you can use your head smash into things, which is based totally on one of the mini games that was on the VR demo disc. So as you scroll forward in a level, you might find something right in your path, and you literally just swing your head forward, and it'll smash it, or it'll swing something around, or something like that. Your controller is a physical presence in the world as well, in that you can you can use it to like throwing stars in some levels, and use a grappling hook in other levels. But otherwise, you're controlling a basic platformer. The thing is that the level is all around you, and it scrolls automatically based on your movement. And you're just going through these short little levels, trying to find the missing robots. You think you have to find 100 robots total or something like that. But, you know, it takes advantage of VR in that sometimes you're running behind, your little robot is running behind you, so you have to turn around, or sometimes you get into these situations where a platform is on the other side of a wall, so you actually kind of lean forward and look around and see where that platform goes. And it's just super enjoyable. I had a lot of fun with it so far. I had heard good things about it, but yeah, it's interesting
got
to
great
play.
reviews.
Yeah,
great reviews. So.
And it's interesting to play a platformer
in VR.
Yeah, I didn't know for sure how it was going to turn out, and I'm super happy with it. Really, really enjoying it. So I'm going to continue playing that a lot more. So thank you again, Sean, for sending those. That was super generous of you. Then the other game that I've been playing this week, which is the one I probably want to talk about the most.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, right?
How long is this show going to be?
Well, you invited Kevin. You guys had to talk about how cool the Switch is for 45 minutes. So,
well, it is cool.
What are you talking about? I didn't talk about the Switch at all.
No, but it went into his Switch conversation.
I believe he said he wasn't playing his Switch very much.
Yeah,
that was
which is all it takes for you to start talking about the Switch.
Did you order your $400 Sega Genesis?
Why would I do that?
I don't know. I thought it was
sick burn right there.
What's on that shelf behind you, Greg? Some cool JVC Sega Genesis consoles?
No, that's not on the shelf. It's too big.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to be Michael Scott.
That's what she said.
There we go.
There you go. So there's a new game out called Return of the Obra Dinn, which is by Lucas Pope, which is the Papers, Please fellow. You've probably seen screenshots or videos of this game floating around on Twitter, mostly because it's all done using it's a fully 3D game, but the filter that he's using basically makes it look like an old Commodore, well, not Commodore 64, but an old Mac game or an old PC game, old Commodore game, that sort of thing. It's very pixelated and monochromatic. All the graphics are monochrome. But that's not the draw. That's not that's what makes you look at it and go, oh, interesting. But then you actually play it. I really, really love this game. So basically the story in it goes that the Obra Dinn is a ship that disappeared. This is being played in the 1800s, I believe. 1803. Lost at sea in 1803. And it reappears. And so you are an investigator that goes out to this ship. It's empty. There's nobody on board. And all you have on you is a book that has things like the map of the ship, the passenger manifesto, and some glossary terms, and that's pretty much it. And a couple of drawings of all 60 people who are on the ship. And you go on, and there's literally nothing there. All the doors are locked, but there's a corpse on the deck. And when you get near this corpse, your stopwatch, you hold up your stopwatch, and if you press the action button, you go back to the moment in time that this person died. You generally hear some audio, like some dialogue. You don't see anything while the dialogue's happening, but you hear the dialogue the few seconds leading up to the death. And then you're into this single still frame of the death. And then what you've got to do is walk around this 3D world and investigate what happened.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And the goal is that by the end of the game, you will have identified and named all 60 people on the ship, how they died, if they died, and if they were murdered, by whom. And you start off with nothing except this one image. So you'll go and you see this image, and it's a dead body laying outside of a locked door. So you go into the memory, and you hear he's shot, and you hear a couple people arguing, and you hear somebody burst open a door, and you hear a gunshot. And then you're in this scene where you see this person who's clearly the corpse now, reeling back, having been shot. The door's open. You can see that there's a man standing there with a gun that was just fired. But you also see there's another man standing over here. And then if you go into this quarters, which are clearly the captain's quarters, you can see that there's actually somebody climbing down outside about to come into the room. And then you go into this other room and you can see that there's a dead woman laying in a bed over here. So you're seeing all this. You don't know who these people are, but you can start piecing it together. It's like, clearly these are the captain's quarters. In the dialogue, you heard someone yelled, "Captain, come out." And then you heard the gunshots. You think, okay, this guy's probably the captain. You have no idea who the guy who was murdered was, but you know that this is the captain. And then by process of elimination, you're actually figuring out the whole story that happened on this boat. But the memories work backwards. So this is the most recent memory. And then that unlocks access to another corpse. And then you see a moment a little bit earlier, a little bit earlier, a little bit earlier. And it's super interesting. I've been having trouble putting it down because it's quite a long story, not quite a long game, but quite a long story. Like I said, 60 people to figure out, and this ship has the worst luck of any ship in history. It's attacked by monsters and a giant squid, and and there's a murder on board, and they suffer from a deadly disease that nobody knows what it is, and et cetera, et cetera. But it's a lot of fun to figure it out, and you don't know if you're right when you identify someone, except in clusters of 3, the game will finally tell you, you got these 3 right. So you need to have gotten the name of the person, how they died, and if they were murdered, by whom. And when you get at least 3 of them right, that's when the game says, hey, you got 3 more right. And it'll lock those off so you can't use those names or situations again.
Okay.
But if you got them wrong, it doesn't tell you you're wrong either. So
okay,
it's awesome. I highly recommend it. It's like $20.
PC.
Yeah. Yep. Steam right now. Yep. I think might be coming out of something else. I don't know, but I mean, Papers, Please finally made it to other platforms, I think.
Yeah.
So, but I highly recommend it. It's like $20 game. It'll really suck you in. I love it. I had trouble putting it down. I want to end the show now so I can go play it some more.
Cool.
That's it.
That
I won't talk
awesome.
I won't talk about Castlevania or Space Quest right now.
Okay.
Oh, the other thing though, real quick. We finally did a spoiler cast on Spider-Man.
You did.
Yeah. Just saying. Patrons will be able to get access to that soon, and everyone else a little bit later.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
With Phil, Mike Phillips, Jeff Solomon from The Chive, and some guy named Chris Baker, who I think you read a comic book once.
He likes Marvel games. Hey, when are you guys going to do? I want more reviews.
Yeah, when are we going to do more of those, CJ?
I don't know. We should do another one
when you guys go back to those, and like you guys have a good setup for that.
That was fun. That was before we started doing the after show stuff.
That was a good idea, and then CJ stopped doing it.
You could do it just easily as I can. I'm not the only one on the show.
Greg, didn't you give Playboy the game like a 9.5?
I never played Playboy the game.
Hottest pixels.
What about the guy game?
The guy game I might have given a 9.5. We can't re-review the guy game because that would get us arrested.
Yeah.
Although I still have my copy.
All right. Well, I've been playing some video games. Tetris Effect being one. It's awesome. Go buy it. I'll see you on the leaderboards. I've been playing Diablo 3 on the Nintendo Switch still.
What is that?
It's really good.
Is it good to go back to if I haven't played it since the original PC release?
Yes.
Is it still fun to play through by yourself?
It's still fun. Yeah, I'm playing through by myself pretty much, with the occasional person popping in online. But I'm having a lot of fun with that game, and I have never really played Diablo this much. So,
Kevin, your audio has gotten really low again.
Oh, sorry about that. I will fix it now. Sorry about
that. Then I went back to a couple of other games this weekend, Splatoon 2 being one. and I hadn't played it in a while. And they had a bunch of new stages, and everybody is really high level. Like they introduced a prestige mechanic in Splatoon, so there are a lot of people that are like level 35 star, which means they're really friggin' good,
Really
at the
good.
game. So yeah, there's a lot of that, and but it still had fun, and the matchmaking still does a pretty decent job of keeping the games close. I never feel like it's a complete shutout, so that's good. Splatoon 2, just a fantastic game, by the way.
Have you
And
run
they,
into any of the like hackers and stuff, like people cheating a lot in that
no,
game?
no, I've never
So
run
that's
into
been
that.
kind of blown out of proportion, you think, from like people saying Nintendo's not doing a good job.
I mean,
with
those people might be playing the ranked modes, which I am not playing.
that would
So
make sense. Okay, cool.
I'm just playing for level, so it doesn't really
The
matter.
love of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a lot of fun playing Splatoon, and they've added a bunch of new weapons and stuff since I last played it. So been having a lot of fun playing that. And I went back and played some Overwatch. And speaking of a game where they've added a bunch of stuff and changed a bunch of stuff since I last played, Overwatch, they've made a lot of changes, and but it's still such a great game, so much fun to play Overwatch. And yeah, those two games are just so much fun online. And then I also loaded up Hitman, the original, because it's on Game Pass. And
Yeah, I was playing that too.
the thing
I
of-
go back to that game all the time.
yeah, the thing about Game Pass is, so I downloaded Hitman, and it was really just the first 2 levels. And not
still
like
good.
not the whole game.
You
They
should
wanted me-
totally still buy it. It is like I own it on Xbox and PC. Like it is,
Yeah.
it's so much fun. It's just
Yeah, I wanted to play it because Hitman 2 comes out this week,
Yeah.
and they're going to incorporate I think all of the Hitman 1 levels into Hitman 2.
How cool is that? What a great idea.
Yeah, it's really kind of becoming a platform.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell
Which is
like Hitman
interesting.
2 is not very different from looks and in terms of the but I mean, I think what they really need to do is overhaul the UI from Hitman 1 because
Yeah,
a lot of
which
this
I think
stuff
they
that
have done.
they have done, which is just great. I can't wait to play that game this week.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun playing the first 2 missions of Hitman, and I think I bought at least some other mission on PS4, so I might go back and play more of that. But kind of interested in Hitman 2. I mean, the game, the way that they turned Hitman into a service game with the elusive targets, and the first one in the second game is Sean Bean. You have to assassinate Sean
Brilliant.
Bean.
Brilliant.
Brilliant, a little bit of
Totally.
brilliance there.
What?
Yeah,
Oh my god, that's
Because he
interesting.
dies in like 60% of the film.
Oh yeah, he dies in every film he's in. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and now you have to kill him in
Every-
Hitman
yeah.
too. So yeah, I kind of want to try that out. And I just like the way that IO Interactive has run the Hitman game series, or since 2016 anyway, kind of as a platform with new content all the time. And yeah, it's just an interesting way to think about a sort of single player game that has a lot of ways that they're changing up the gameplay. So
I mean, like it was last. Hopefully they do like a Home Alone 2 thing this year because last year they did. Was it Marv and what's the 2 guys from Home Alone? Harry.
no way.
Yeah, and you had to go find them, and also a magical Santa Claus that could disappear and reappear in other places. You had to go assassinate those 2 guys in Paris, and they do stuff like that all the time, like the elusive target stuff you were mentioning. And that was the surprise hit for me. I think it was 2 years ago it came out.
Yeah.
But that game,
Yeah,
not
2016.
only was it a lot of fun to play, again looking at Digital Foundry shout out. Game looks awesome on Xbox One X. Like I think I'm actually going to get it on that instead of PC just so I can play it in front of my TV.
Yeah.
It looks great on everything, but these guys are wizards. Great looking games.
Indeed. And yeah, that's all I've been playing. So let's do at least one tweet, right?
I got time for a couple.
Tweet.
Scared the
So
crap out of me
spooky.
because Phil's in the chat right now.
So spooky.
He left, I think. But we got him on the soundboard. So let's do this one from Hacker Alias Georgie Boy, who says, what game would you guys say is a champion for each console? A shining example like The Last of Us on PS3, Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES, and E.T. on Atari. Just kidding on that last one, but you get the idea.
Halo on the original.
Halo, yeah.
Which Halo?
Yeah, maybe Halo.
2.
Probably Halo
I'd say
2.
Halo 2.
Yeah.
Halo
Yeah.
2. On the Xbox 360.
It would have to be probably Gears or Halo 3.
I was thinking Gears.
Like Gears 1 was
probably
it set
Gears.
the tone for the generation. Like what else can you
It
say?
definitely, it changed
Geometry
the way those
Wars.
games were played.
Geometry
it
Wars
made
too.
Japan make Gears of War clones.
Yeah.
PS3's got to be Uncharted 2.
Kevin's better at this than me.
PlayStation 4, Spider-Man.
Yes, I would agree with that.
No, I think, you know what, PS4 after this year, it's going to be the Yakuza console because it will have
Yeah,
more.
but it's still Spider-Man.
Do you think Spider-Man's the best game on the PlayStation 4? You don't think it's Uncharted 4? You don't think it's Lost
Absolutely not
Legacy?
Uncharted
no.
4. No, I thought Uncharted 4 was not even the best Uncharted game.
Uncharted 2 on PS3.
Yeah.
It was really good. Although I think Last of Us, I agree, PS3.
Xbox One is a really tough one because it'd probably have to be. That's tough.
Sea of Thieves.
No,
Just
I think
say it. Just
no, it's not. Forza is
Horizon
probably,
2.
Yeah, Forza Horizon is the best. It's the best IP that they still have on that console.
yeah, I agree.
You know what I think would be an interesting one would be Super Nintendo. It'd probably have to be Link to the Past
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably a dead heat between Link to the Past,
and World.
Super Metroid, and Super Mario World.
I think I'm going to say Super Metroid on that.
PS1 Metal Gear Solid. Again, really set the tone for story-driven games for a couple years.
Yeah, I don't know though. I think PS1 is, if we had more time to think about it, I think you could make some really good cases for other games as well.
Kombat
Although
trilogy.
the further away we get from it, I guess the harder it is to like I would say in the moment, Twisted Metal would have been right up there as well. But nowadays, I don't think you would even think about it.
I think you would think Resident Evil 2 before you thought.
Sure,
about
Resident Evil, Wipeout.
Yeah.
No, but again, like that.
That's what I'm saying. In the moment, as we get further away from the console and those series are dead, they aren't as important. They don't seem as important as they were.
100%. I think you can't even make an argument that it's not Ocarina of Time. Again,
I will. Mario 64.
Games. No, for what it did for
Mario
3D
64.
games. Yeah, but
Ocarina of Time. Yeah.
Ocarina of Time is based off of the Mario 64 engine.
Sure, but we're talking about shining. We're
level.
talking about games that this original question. I mean, this is the
champion for each console.
The champion for each console.
Yeah,
Mario 64, man. People think Mario 64 when they think N64.
I'm going to agree with Kevin though. Ocarina of Time overall.
Yeah.
What's a good Turbo Graphics?
Bonk.
Dracula X.
Air Zonk.
Because everyone wanted to play it. Air Zonk.
JJ and Jeff. But the Japanese version where it's Kato and Ken and they can fart and stuff.
Perfect.
What do you think is?
Oh yeah, Captain Logan just mentioned in the chat. Captain Logan in the chat. GoldenEye. N64. GoldenEye.
Come on, GoldenEye.
No, I think it would still be Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time, I believe, still sold more than GoldenEye. Did you guys see that MPD? That was a really cool list that MPD had for like the top 10 games for every console that came out this past month. Did you guys see that?
No,
I did not see that.
You should look it up. It's actually really interesting. The top 10, best-selling games, and this is only for US, by the way, for the Nintendo 64. I'll see if I can find it real quick. But actually, yeah, here we go. This came out last week. So, number one game. Actually, you're right. Actually, Ocarina of Time was fourth. It was Super Mario 64, then GoldenEye, then Mario Kart, then Ocarina of Time, then Pokemon Stadium. I can't believe that was so high, but I guess
that was
it's Pokemon, and you couldn't get Pokemon on that system otherwise.
You couldn't,
right?
Yeah.
Donkey Kong 64. Okay.
CJ's favorite game.
64 fantastic.
Yeah.
Smash Brothers, okay. Diddy Kong Racing, okay. Shadows of
Diddy
the
Kong
Empire.
Racing was a monster when it came out.
Yeah, it was.
Can you guess what? Can you name that? Well, the Game Boy Color was Pokemon Silver, Gold.
It's all Pokemon games.
Mario
right?
Brothers DX, Pokemon Pinball. Number 4, Pokemon Pinball. I think that had the cool, like a little rumble thing in the.
It did. Yeah, it's a great
AAA
game.
battery. That's cool. Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Duel, Link's Awakening DX, Donkey Kong Country. Great version, not a great, but an impressive version of Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Color. Pokemon trading card game, and then Oracle of Ages for Legend of Zelda.
Cool.
So what?
Right.
What we're saying is Mario 64.
No, Ocarina of Time.
Genesis.
All right.
I think you got to go with Sonic 2. I know everyone's saying Streets of Rage 2, and personally, I would say Streets of Rage 2 is my favorite. But you got to go with Sonic 2. Sonic 2 is the game that everyone bought a Genesis for.
Yeah,
or Genesis Aladdin. All right. Is that the only tweet we're gonna do? I don't think we got time for any.
There was another one that was really good. Hang on one sec. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
This one from Hacker Alias Headcase Games.
Okay.
What do you consider the golden age of gaming? Best it would ever be when it was new and novel. PS2. Now I'll say the 80s when games were pretty limited scope and quantity and availability, but still very fresh and exciting to me. Generations felt like giant leaps. So what we consider the golden age of gaming is the actual question here.
It's right now. I don't think you'll find a time in video games that has a higher quality and quantity of games that are much more diverse, allow for a much broader diversity of interests for folks out there. I mean, you could go on Steam and it would be hard to not find a game that would be for almost anyone, good or bad. And you still have, I mean, the ability to game has never been easier. Everyone has a phone. I don't think you could argue with today. Today there's never been a better time to be playing video games.
Okay, but let's
so true.
Let's go with. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but let's go with looking up the definition of golden age. An idyllic, often imaginary pastime of peace, prosperity, and happiness. Let's talk about the past. Let's talk about you can always make the argument because gaming is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So you'll always be able to. The easy answer is right now.
What gen was the Gamecom out?
Jesus Christ.
That's easily the best one. I'm gonna say early CD-ROM video game systems. So like 3DO, like
PlayStation 1, or not even that early?
Yeah, PlayStation 1, okay, but like,
are you kidding?
As people were sort of like getting their heads wrapped around what you could do with the extended space that a CD-ROM gave you, right? Mm-hmm. And you'd get games like Night Trap, but you'd get like really experimental games from studios like Electronic Arts that feel now like garage projects,
right?
But back then were like really huge, cutting edge like things. And to me, that was just a really exciting time to think about games.
So
and the potential.
I'm interested now to hear what Kevin says, because I have a theory about this, but go ahead, Kevin.
What
you would consider
the golden age?
Not saying now, the golden age of gaming.
I think it would have to be the mid to late 90s.
Really?
It would have to be. It would have to be the end of the 16 going into the 32 and 64-bit consoles. It was because you were basically maximizing the potential of what you're able to do on the 2D or in 2 dimensions, and then you also had the increased ability to be creative in 3D. Especially, we just mentioned Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time. I mean, basically what we have now is folks trying to then take the next step with VR, and I just don't think it's been as successful as 2D to 3D. It's taking much, much longer, where I think the move from 2D to 3D was relatively successful for PlayStation, for Sega Saturn, and for the Nintendo 64, and especially PC.
So CJ, you're talking about like 93, 94.
Yeah.
Kevin, you're talking about like 97, 98.
Yeah, I would say like, between 95 and 98.
Okay. That didn't quite prove out the theory that I had in my head, but Mike in the chat, I think it was it? Or maybe it was TFX God. I can't remember. Or is that TF Cross God? Anyway, I sort of look at this from a standpoint. I agree with you, CJ. That to me was like, the 16-bit consoles and when CD was starting to take off and everyone had no idea how to use multimedia in games. So it was a really experimental time. But that also falls in line with right around the time that we were in high school.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think
very true.
This does line up because I think my other answer would be the original Xbox, like
right, and that's more what I expected you to say.
But it was more because it was then the second iteration of those 3D games. It was when you got not just the Halos, but you got the Morrowinds.
Which I agree with.
Some of the best racing games of all time, and some of my favorite. I mean, we're talking about NFL 2K5. Like that is, my favorite football game of all time.
Which I agree with, but I also think that it's interesting. That's where I expect you to go, mostly because that was when you were in that part of that time of your life,
and it's when you can buy
exactly
more of your own games, and
you're taking control of
games every year.
Yes, control of your own hobby. And yeah, agreed. And I think when you look at a lot of people, when you look at music, the music that you love comes from that sort of era in your life as well. So anyway, that's
B52s for the NES. Jesus, that gross. I don't know if you guys had that gold cart B52s.
I think it was just what are we talking about?
No, it was an NES. It was what was that company?
It was just B52, wasn't it?
Yeah,
maybe it was just B52.
You thinking Comerica?
Comerica, yeah. God, oh my God, I had a couple of those games. Ultimate Stuntman. That was another one.
Yeah. But anyway, I was more curious about what the answers were going to be there because my answer, I think everybody would have been able to guess. I mean, I do a show about 16-bit games,
right.
So but yeah, I think it has way more to do with somebody in the chat said your formative years. CJ's best friend Mike in there. Golden age of gaming equals whenever the person defining it was a young kid with their early gaming systems. So I mean, that's another idea too, right? Anyway, I just thought it'd be interesting. Hey, so before we do the outro, I'm going to plug this again. We finally did our Spider-Man spoiler cast. We're going to have that for patrons as the extra show feed this week, right, CJ?
That's right.
So it's Spider-Man spoiler cast with me, Phil, Mike Phillips, Jeff Solomon from The Chive, and Chris Baker, frequent guest on the show, big comic book game guy. Author about comic book video games and all that fun stuff. Worked at Marvel, made books. So yeah, you'll see that on your patron feed this week, and then later in the week we're going to release it wide release for everyone. So look for it.
Alrighty, and that is our show for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a question for us or would like to comment on something you heard, you can direct that to @P1Podcast on the Twitter, or you can go to our internet website at player1podcast.com. There you'll find Generation 16 episodes from Mr. Greg Seward.
Hope everyone has gone and enjoyed the most recent one about Star Cruiser. If not, go watch it.
Indeed. You'll find show notes and links to all the stuff that we talked about, and including a link to our Discord server where if you join that, you can discuss this episode with us and our other listeners.
If you would like to subscribe to the Player One Podcast, you can do so by going to player1podcast.com or by going to the Apple Podcasts. Thank you. You're going to have to lead me through this because I don't remember doing it ever. Apple Podcasts. Or you can go to the iTunes Music Store, right? Yes?
Sure.
And download the Player One Podcast app for $1.99. Come on, man. Nobody?
Hold on. Wait. I got it.
Cheap. There you go. I'll give you access to all of our episodes. All 627 of our episodes, which you can stream to your listening device, as well as one-touch communication with us via email, Twitter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, of course, you can get that same app for your Android device on whatever store you're supposed to go to for that.
Amazon.
There you go. The Amazon Android Marketplace.
For also cheap.
Thank you, Greg. Sorry,
That's
I'm
it.
in the chat again. That's it. We stream every Sunday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/P1 podcast.
That's
Tell
right.
me if I'm getting these wrong, CJ.
You're right.
You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at P1 Podcast. And you can also find us on Spotify and a lot of other streaming services.
And we're on patreon.com/P1 podcast.
I was going to do that.
Yeah, you can get a special show every week. We do an after show, or in this week's case, you got the Spider-Man spoiler cast.
And please consider going to Patreon, because this show always has been and always will be free. However, it's not free to produce. We do have to spend some money on the website and keeping the lights on. CJ pays his rent, buys all those
Something
games
like
behind him, stuff like that.
Right.
So please consider supporting us.
And you gonna say your thank yous?
Yeah.
You'd be your Phil.
Hey, CJ.
Yeah.
Thanks for hosting this week.
Well, thank you, Greg, for joining me.
Hey, Kevin.
What's up, man?
Thank you for being our Phil this week.
Yeah,
for being a fill-in.
Oh, Jesus. I don't like the pun so much. But, thanks for the opportunity, because, it's always great to have an outlet to talk about game stuff. And I think you guys do a great job. And you guys are some of the best people I know to talk about games, not just in terms of knowledge, but you guys are incredibly nice people. I haven't met you in person yet, Greg, but CJ,
That's
next
true.
time you're in town.
Have we never met in person?
No.
I thought we had. Man, in my dreams we meet in person.
I went to Canada. I went to Canada once, and it was to do that indie game documentary thing. But that was about it.
It's a pretty big place.
It is. It's almost the same size as the United States, which is also relatively big.
That hurts me a little bit. Tell the people where they can find you on the internet, Kevin.
Hey guys, you could probably just go to @KevinLarrabee. I do some stuff on there. I keep most of my game stuff to add back in my play, though. I try to keep those. I'm trying to keep my personal Twitter more or less. I don't use it as much. I usually use back in my play for game stuff, and then at Allied Strength for my gym stuff, or at Fitcast for my Fitcast podcast stuff. If you're interested in fitness stuff, it's a great time. I think a great opportunity for everyone out there listening is to just take 5 minutes today. If you're kind of interested in making some health and fitness goals, especially going into the next year, just take 5 minutes, kind of write down what you want to do. Just think about, where you want to go in terms of your health and fitness goals, and then kind of work your way backwards on how to get there. And if you need some help, let me know. But I think that's the best thing you can do is invest in yourself this year. Take an opportunity to invest in yourself, because, again, from opening, it's my 1-year anniversary for the gym this month. So that's why I'm kind of talking about this stuff some more. But I think the best investment you can make is in yourself, guys, because if you don't take care of this stuff now, you end up paying for it in the long run. Let's do our best to live long and drop dead, as my friend Dan John says.
Jesus.
There you go.
Yeah.
It was inspirational right up to the end.
No, hey, if you live to 100 and then you drop dead, you don't have to live in a nursing home. You don't have to deal with debilitating diseases, and that's what health costs are very expensive here in the United States.
I get it now.
Go bankrupt from being in a hospital for months on end. That would be the way to go.
Now I get it, and that makes perfect sense.
I don't know if you guys know, but aliens were in the...
And that's the end of the show.
All right.
All right. See everybody next week.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.